Welcome to the Chief Holistic Officer podcast. You are here because you are interested in finding ways to continuously improve and create more joy in your life, your whole life. We're talking at work, at home, and within yourself. Change can be scary, but it can also be fun. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CHO podcast. This is your main CHO, Sarah Becker, and today I'm very excited to have Heather Shumaker on the podcast. Heather writes books for adults and children. She began writing books in elementary school and is now an award-winning author of several books for adults. Today we will be having a conversation around one of her renegade parenting books, which is called It's Okay to Go Up the Slide. Heather also has another renegade parenting book, It's Okay Not to Share, which I have ordered and will be reading shortly. In her book, she promotes play, conflict mediation skills, and no homework for young children. So with the school year starting, I think homework is at the top of mind for many of us parents, and maybe causing some conflicts. We have a two-part series with Heather. The first episode, we will be talking about risk taking, letting your kids test their limits associated with physical risks. And then the second episode, we will touch on homework and why Heather believes that there should be no homework for elementary school children and what you can do if you have a child in elementary school that has homework. But before we get to the podcast, I also want to mention some more fun facts. Before she became an author, Heather tried many jobs, including milkmaid, sailor, llama trek guide, and fire crew. She also lived at the South Pole and sorted garbage and recycling in Antarctica. Amazing. I want to be her. She has great life experiences and great insights for us as parents. So enjoy. So what attracted me to this book is in part the title, It's Okay to Go Up the Slide, because I remember as a child going up the slide all the time at the playground and not thinking anything of it. And especially those big tube slides where, one kid could be going down and the other kids could be climbing up at the same time. And it was always a fun challenge. And then when I started taking my kids to the playground and kind of seeing, interacting or being around, experiencing the parents around and seeing that it was no longer okay to go up the slide, or so it seemed when I was at that playground. Every time a kid tried to attempt to go up the slide, it was no, we don't do that, we don't do that. And so that I started questioning, like, is it really okay not to go up the slide? Or are we just being overcautious or overconcerned, or what in the world is going on? So when I came across this book, I was like, awesome. Now I can read this and figure out what in the world is going on and where should I go from here.
So you noticed a big generation difference from your childhood to your parenting. Yeah.
Right. Well, and part of it was I wasn't sure if as a child, I just didn't notice those things, and maybe it wasn't okay even when I was a child, but I didn't notice or like what was going on.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we had not just slides, like a regular slide, we had big triangular slides that was just like a climbing wall with no footholds. It was just a silver slide, and the whole point was to climb up it. And
Right.
Usually 12 or 14 kids would be on it at the same time, falling on each other. But that was people had designed it for that purpose. And I've never seen one of those recently. But that was the mindset, was let kids try, let kids figure things out. It's okay to get bonked a bit. It was a different mindset. And kids still have that mindset. Kids still need to take risks and work things out among themselves, and have some adults nearby in case there's something really bad going on to help kids but not necessarily stop what the instincts are, not stop the independence and the decision making, and kids having conflict. One thing I love about kids going up the slide is there's almost always an opportunity to have different ideas hit up against each other. Often there is one kid who wants to go up and one kid who wants to go down at the same time. And so if the adults don't just jump in, unless they're, say, babies and toddlers that need a little extra help, but we're talking about kids who can talk for themselves and so on. This is a prime opportunity for them to gain conflict mediation skills. And if you've done this at home with your kid, or if you're a preschool teacher and so on, and you practice these skills, the kids should have a few tools in their tool belt to pull out when they meet another kid whose ideas are different than theirs. And so the more practice we have interacting with other people whose ideas don't go the way ours do, the better we get at these skills. And often kids who, if you see them having opposite ideas, now an adult would rush in to solve it for them, or make one kid bad or outlaw it. Kids actually might be more, once they've set some ground rules on each other, then they're more often to actually start interacting and playing together. And it can turn into a beautiful friendship, even if the friendship only lasts while you're at the park. Because sometimes kids are completely into each other, but it only lasts for an hour and then you're gone and you might never see them again. But they've still gained a tremendous amount. So I love the slide going up it, partly because it can cause problems. And that's an opportunity to gain the skills to solve them. I also love it because slides don't come with instruction books. They just don't. And any child in any country, I have people send me pictures from all over the world of children going up the slide. They do it in every country of the world. If there's a slide, they'll try going up it, they'll try going down it, they'll try anything, because who tells you how to play? Here's a structure, here's a tree, what do you do with it? Kids are always trying to test out the new version of their bodies. They're growing, their muscles are growing, their brains are growing. They can do something today that they couldn't a week ago. And they're always curious to see what their limits are and what their physical limits are, and how they can try a new game. So if you're going up the slide, you may be doing a very creative game of getting away from the lava monster. And if you slide back down, you're going to get your foot in the lava. We can really shut down a lot of play when we step in too soon.
Right. And it's so much more than just them trying to do something different physically. As you said, it's also building a lot of mental skills. And from what I've learned kind of researching different parenting techniques is that the best way for children to learn is through play.
Mm-hmm.
And so
through
this is
direct experience, which you can't just sit down and read a book about be nice to people. You have to interact with other humans, and sometimes they're not going to be as nice as we want them to, but they're going to keep on learning and keep on gaining those skills. So yeah, it's something you get from direct experience, and play is the greatest teacher, because it brings in the good, the bad, the ugly, and the happy. It brings it all.
right. And so how have you been able to, apart from the book, what have you seen with being able to help parents? Because it feels like on the sidelines, there's just that anxiety and that stress and the worry about their child and what they're experiencing on the playground, and not wanting them to physically get hurt or mentally get hurt. So
Yeah.
what advice do you have for parents on how they can handle being on the sidelines more without jumping into the game and letting their kids kind of manage that part?
Yeah, well, there's huge pressure. And a lot of it is, you can feel it. If you go to a playground, you can feel it, and you can see the eyes judging you and the voices. So it's real and it's out there. I think one thing is, you do want to make sure that kids don't actually physically hurt each other. And there's often a mix of ages at a playground. So sometimes, yeah, you do need to step in. I think one thing is to alleviate the nervousness and the pressure, just say something. It's mostly the other parents who are concerned. If you're watching and the kids seem like they can sort something out, or at least give them a try to see if they can sort it out, you can say something out loud, set to the other parents who are sort of standing around or whatever they might be doing. Just say, it's okay with me if they go up the slide. And that can relax people, because they might be only insisting on that rule because you're there.
Right.
So sometimes just bringing it out in the open, it's more of a discussion between the adults than with the kids, or talking to your child and saying, when we're at the sometimes you're in a mix of people, it's not going to work to go up the slide, and you can say, today it's really busy at the playground, and I see a lot of people are worried about it when you're playing that way. So let's wait till a few people leave, it's not so crowded. Or you don't always have to toe the line and say, yes, you have a right to go up the slide at all times. I mean, use your common sense. But see if you can make a little bit of inroads with the adults around you. You don't really need to convince the kids. The kids are going to go up the slide. And, maybe the kids who are at the playground that day, there's often more than one slide. You can say, well, can you find a slide that it's okay to go up? And, they might come up with their own ideas. If you're working within your own classroom or your own home, it's great to have the kids problem solve the problem. I'm worried kids are going to get hurt who are coming down the slide. What could you do to help this out? And they'll come up with, let's put an arrow on this slide, and they'll come up with all kinds of ideas of how to do it. But sometimes that's a little trickier to navigate in a public place. So I just like to talk to the other parents and say, it's okay by me. And then that relaxes them, and see what they say. I also have little buttons that I give them out. They're called their conversation starters. And it's the picture of the book, and it says, I go up the slide. And people wear them on their coats. So that when they're at the playground, they can kind of initiate this conversation and spread the word.
Awesome. I need one of those. Where can I find one?
Well, usually when I speak at conferences, I bring a whole bucket.
Oh, so I have to follow you to a conference is what you're saying.
Follow me somewhere.
So where else is this kind of fear and this worry about taking risks? Like it's quite obvious at the playground, and then where in other areas of life? Because I think that it's not only contained to the playground would be my guess, that it kind of trickles into almost every aspect of life for a parent.
Yeah, well, it's everywhere. It's a little bit too much everywhere. I take a morning walk, for example, just in the neighborhood. I know most of the families, but there's, if I wander too far, I don't know everybody. So if there's a kid standing in the front yard, many of them will turn their backs to me as I pass by when I say hello. And some of them will say, I've been taught not to talk to strangers, and then they will turn their back. And I'm not slowing down to talk to them. I'm just saying hi as I walk by. And I think, wow, this family, and it's not just that family, there's lots of families who have taught their kids so much fear of the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. So in this book, It's Okay to Go Up the Slide, there's a chapter called It's Okay to Talk to Strangers. And that's really about safety and gaining the social skills and emotional skills you need to be as safe as you can. Because we tell kids don't talk to strangers. That's the wrong advice. It doesn't help keep our children safe. Mostly strangers are the helpful people. They're the people who will help find a lost child. They'll be the people who, can bring, if you get hurt, to bring you to get help. Mostly it's the strangers who are the helpers in the world. And unfortunately, most of the people we're totally worried about, the ones who will seriously hurt our child, sexual abuse, whatever you might think, most of those are the people they know. People they already know. They're people in their family. They're people who are their close neighbors. They're people in their whatever group they belong to. So by telling them don't talk to strangers to keep them safe, we're totally mixing the reality and the messages, especially young children. They don't totally understand what a stranger